Hey Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janapalava Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janapalava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajana Yashodanandana Prajana Gavana Tira Punjabi Jaya Radha Punjabi Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtakara Satashila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridasa Thakur Ki Prem Se Goho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Ki Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtanam Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Shri Radha Govinda Madhava Ki Ago Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Grand Gopal Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Shatarine. Hare Krishna Prabhus, Haribol. Nice to be with you all again. Today we're going to carry on reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually the same verse we read the other day from the 5th canto. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. This is not the 7th canto. We find many prayers of Prahlad, but in the 5th canto there's a few prayers where he prays on behalf of the residents of Harivarsh, the realm of the universe where he resides. So we're going to carry on this, especially at this time of the world where it's quite a challenging time for people in general and for devotees, many of them, where you can't go to the temple, you can't necessarily go have any programs, functions only online, can't go for walks, can't go to the Holy Dham, and so many things. Can't go on Sankirtan in many places, most places. And I see today devotees are joining us from as far away as New Zealand and even Australia, although it's the middle of the night. And Philippines particularly, I see many devotees from Philippines, one or two from the Malaysian archipelago, and India, and of course Europe, England, India and America, here and there, USA. And I think we're all exposed to what's going on. So our prayers at this time are for the welfare of all living entities. Of course, specifically as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he's equal to all. But he's especially, to his devotees. He's not for or against anyone, so to speak. He's a friend to everyone. But naturally, somebody who's your devotee, somebody who's working for you, somebody who's dedicated their life, then naturally you take more. You reciprocate more. But it's for everyone. And the devotee, the Vaishnava, he's hoping that every living entity will, let's say, develop a favorable attitude. So if you can give me that book there, please. So we're going to read, and I hope Rasikananda Prabhu is there. Is he? Can Rasikananda put the verse on the board, please? On the screen. This is the 5th canto, 18th chapter, verse number 9. If you want to look on your own screen or your own mobile, it's up to you. Thank you, Rasika. Rasikananda, as you know, has been traveling with me for 2 or 3 years until a few months ago, and we're all missing him very much, but he's in Wellington now, so he's also helping to facilitate these programs, as you're aware. And we'd like to thank him very much for that. And sending out newsletters also. So this is the 5th canto, and you should have it there yet. Can we scroll down a little bit there, please? I don't know if we can do it, or Sarasika has to. Just so we have the Sanskrit verse in full. The Sanskrit. We've only got the English. That's it. You got it. First class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm just going to read the verse through. You can once and you can repeat it. Svastyastu vishvasya kalak prasidatam. Svastyastu vishvasya kalak prasidatam. Jayantu bhutani shivang mitodiha. Jayantu bhutani shivang mitodiha. Manascha badram bhajatad hokshaje. Manascha badram bhajatad aveshatam no matirapya hoituki. Aveshatam no matirapya hoituki. Okay, we'll have the English there, Rasika, please. English is, the translation, may there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga. For by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of him. The other day we read some of the purport, so we'll read the rest of the purport tonight. I'm not going to read the whole purport. And we're going to take up from the verse of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the Shikshastakam. Prayers is about a third or more of the way through the purport. If you go through the purport a little further, please. There it is, Ainanda. Thank you. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam vishame bhavam kripaya tava pada pankaja stita duli sadrisham vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or another, I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mamma Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaitaki Tvayi. Life after life, kindly let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's lotus feet. When Prahlad Maharaj chants, Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, he prays for a benediction from the Lord. But because he is also an exalted Vaishnava, he wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first desire expressed in his prayer is let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. Prahlad Maharaj thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. According to Chanakya Pandit, there are two kinds of envious living entities. One is a snake, and the other is the man-like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son, Prahlad. But Prahlad Maharaj asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prahlad wished that his father and the other demons like him would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees. Kalakpasidatam. The difficulty is that the color, envious living entity, is rarely pacified. One kind of color or snake can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mantroshadi Vashasarpa Kalakena Nivaryate. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. If the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if, by the grace of Krishna, everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays, Shivam Mitodiya. In material activities, everyone is envious of others, but in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind may become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna, Bhajatada Hokshaje, as indicated elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. And as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, 1865, Man Mana Bhava Mad Bhakta. One should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed. Cheto Darpanamajanam. Materialists always think of sense gratification. But Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. If they think of Krishna always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, the whole universe will be vacated because everyone will go back to Godhead, back home. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. End of purport. Hare Krishna, we can go back on screen. Welcome back. Haribol. Prabhupada gives examples sometimes of a prison. Even if you let all the prisoners out, it won't be long before it's full up again. We're having the same experience right now in our garden here in New Mayapur, in France. Again, we started today. I've been out of action in the garden for a few weeks. We're back in action again today. And we're clearing all the innumerable thorn bushes. It seems like innumerable. We're trying to. But if you turn your back on them, they're there again. Practically speaking, they come up almost within a few days. They soon start growing. It's an unending service. But in this particular verse, this is the mood of a devotee. This is the mood that we want to develop. This mood of wanting, not wanting for our own sense gratification. That's why we're in the material world. But this mood of wanting that other living entities be delivered from this world. And the process of delivering. Here Prabhupada mentions remembering Krishna. But generally speaking, the emphasis is on chanting about Krishna. Loud chanting of the holy names of Krishna. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was with Haridas Thakur, one time Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to be in anxiety. And Haridas Thakur, my Lord, what is your anxiety? How can the Lord be in anxiety? And the Lord said, oh, how will all the non-moving living entities be delivered? How will they be delivered? All species, how will they be delivered? Okay, human beings, maybe they can be delivered. Perhaps the animals. But what about the non-moving living entities? The trees, the thorn bushes, the rocks, whatever they are. And Haridas Thakur, my Lord, do not be in anxiety. They will be delivered very easily by the loud chanting of the Maha Mantra. And again, Haridas Thakur emphasized the loud chanting of the holy name. And this is the means. This is the Yuga Dharma. This is the means to change people's hearts. They can't remember Krishna. Our minds are too clouded, completely stuffed up with material thoughts. Myself included. But most people in the world right now are probably thinking of coronavirus. We're meditating on this little tiny virus, or the effects of that little tiny virus. It's captivated everyone's consciousness. How to change that? And so many other objects of their attachment captivate our consciousness, our families, our sense gratification is mentioned here, of course, of various kinds, enjoying varieties of sensual pleasures through our various senses, experienced in the mind, dreaming of going on holiday. Now people are dreaming of their holidays, right? They're dreaming of when will the lockdown end and we can go for a holiday. Or we can go to visit our family in the other part of the country. Or I can at least go to some event. How long is this going to carry on? Well, that's not within our hands. Whatever it is, it is. This is the nature of this material. We're absorbed. Our consciousness is absorbed in these things, dreaming of the future, lamenting at the past, and suffering in the present. This is our lives. So we have to if we really want to solve the problem, anyone's problems, we have to live in, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur many times, dwell not the past that sleeps, nor ere the future dream at all, but live with times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call. In other words, learn to live in the eternal, every moment. And that means, it doesn't mean that, we're going to be able to eat ice creams eternally. Some people may like to think like that, but it's not possible. It means to be in Krishna consciousness. So we're going to read something now. If you give me this book here. This one here. Little one. Thank you. We're going to go back now to we're going back in time. 1965. September 18, 1965. And as many of you are familiar, this was the time when Srila Prabhupada arrived in Boston, in the USA. And he compiled this famous poem, Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma. And I'm going to relate this to today's subject matter, in the sense that Srila Prabhupada, that was his desire. And if you have it, you can open your songbook. It's in the songbook, I don't know what page. And you can also find it if you have some mobile with it on. But this is the translation of the prayers that Prabhupada compiled there on board the Jaladuta. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of passion and ignorance. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service, O Lord? I'm simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them of your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. Herein lies the secret. Understanding the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is the secret. But people, because they're so absorbed in material life, we're so attached to sense gratification, we can't understand the message. We can only understand it to some degree. I was mentioning the other day, we have, in our body, we have mind and five, knowledge-acquiring senses. And the five knowledge-acquiring senses are constantly passing messages to the mind. Each sense has its own perception of the object. If the mind only listens to one sense, you won't get a proper picture, right? For instance, if you take anything, come to that, let's take milk. So if the mind says to the eye, what is milk? What will the eye say? The eye will say, it's white. Okay, then the mind will say to the ear, what is milk? Nothing. It'll say to the nose, what is milk? Not very much. It's not much there, unless it's gone off. If it's gone sour, there might be a bit of a smell there to the mind, to the nose. And it says to the touch, what is milk? Oh, milk is liquid. It's kind of slimy, greasy liquid. Oh, that's your impression. You don't bother asking the tongue, okay? It's a white, smellless, slimy liquid. Doesn't sound very attractive, huh? And just like that, everyone's getting a bit, everyone's got no one's got the whole. Everyone's got a little bit of understanding of what is milk. But it's not correct. It's not complete. It's not totally incorrect. But you can't define milk as being, partially you could say it's a white, slimy liquid. But ultimately it's not. You have to ask the tongue, right? the tongue. Okay, tongue, tell us what milk's like. Yummy. Sweet nectar, we hope. Of course, if you buy bottled milk, it may not be. But cow's milk is. So it's like that in spiritual life. Each sense has some kind of understanding. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the senses in our body are envious of the ear. The ear is the key. Now, the mind is the king, and it takes all of these things and gets a complete picture. So we have to get a complete picture, no doubt, in devotional service. Hearing is the first and most important faculty of, you could say, of understanding Krishna consciousness. But it's not the only one. We have to use the working senses as well as the knowledge-acquiring senses in order to purify our consciousness. Otherwise, even though the senses may be, well, we're not going to see. Even though the subject matter is being discussed, we don't hear it. Even the data is there, we're not seeing it. Even prasadam is there, we're not actually honoring it. Everything is kind of like perverted. It's like we miss the point usually. So all the senses have to be properly engaged. Now we're going to read some. Now Prabhupada says here, the words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. And if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral, that means through the ear, oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message, submissive. And it's not just about being submissive when we're sitting down listening to someone we like speak. It's being submissive at every moment, practicing submission. I don't like this, and we don't want to do it. But actually, really being submissive means we're always in that mood. We're cultivating this mood of submission. The whole Bhagavad Gita is based on this principle, isn't it? Arjuna is submitting to Krishna's will. This is the point. So we hear this, but if we want to realize it, we have to practice it also. So now Prabhupada quotes these verses, and I'm just going to read them straight from the Bhagavatam, the one at the bottom. Thank you. This is from the second chapter of the first canto. The second chapter of the first canto is pretty much encapsulates the entire foundational purpose or practice of understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. In this second chapter is the essential ingredients of the whole Bhagavatam are found here. And the practice also, how to act in such a way that we will be able to understand the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the understanding the message of Srimad Bhagavatam frees us from bondage in this material world and awakens within our heart our attraction towards Krishna. So we're going to take it up from verse 16 of the second chapter. And this is Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. He says, O twice-born sages, Brahmins, by serving those devotees who are completely freed of all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains an affinity, it means an attraction, an affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. This is an important point, and this is a summary, it's a nutshell, Presi, of the expanded Srimad Bhagavatam. Serving the devotees who are freed of all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains an affinity. By such service, one gains an affinity. It's not just by, of course, hearing is itself a service, but it's got to be in a submissive mood. And it's with the blessings of the pure devotees who are freed of all vice that we're able to develop that affinity for hearing the messages of Godhead. How that works, we mentioned before, is when we please the pure devotee of the Lord is pleased. Prabhupada says in the purport, regarding, in relation also to the verse today, the asuras are gradually rectified into God consciousness by the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries according to the supreme will. By the mercy of the Vaishnavas, the people can be delivered. I'm just reading a little bit from here and there in the purport, that's all. By serving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants. This is the secret. Association. In the third canto, Lord Kapila Deva explains to his mother Devahuti She wants to know how she become free from this bondage, the labyrinthine knots of material existence. How one can be free. And so Lokapila Dev, her son, explains the Pasangam Ajaram Pasham, that by association, every learned man knows that the greatest entanglement in this world is our attachment to sense enjoyment, sense gratification. When that same attachment is transferred to the liberated souls, that attachment becomes the cause of our liberation or freedom from bondage. Because in the association of devotees, Satam Pasangam, Amavirya Sangvido, Bhavanti Vidkarna Vasaina Kataha, that one develops a relish. Just we see in the 5th chapter of this first canto, Narada Muni, the pastime of Narada Muni, how he, he was just the son of an ordinary maid servant, lady. He never even knew his father. Just a single parent. And his mother was just a maid servant, simple lady. Somehow or another, during the rainy season, great sages stayed in that area, and he had the opportunity to serve them, to render service. Rendering service, taking the remnants of their prasadam and hearing from them, his whole consciousness became transformed by association. The association of those who are transformed or those who are pure is the method of becoming purified. That's why we hear from Srila Prabhupada. That's why we listen to his lectures, his kirtans. Why we chant the holy names, association with Krishna, by the grace of the pure devotee. We hear the sound of the holy name, the sound of the Bhagavatam from the lips of pure devotees. We hear it from their lips. Sometimes Prabhupada gives the example of a parrot. We don't have parrots in France. It's not wild parrots, do we? I don't think so. If you're in Australia, India, Philippines, maybe you have wild parrots flying around. And maybe you've got mangoes. I don't know if you can send us some mangoes or not. We don't have mangoes here in France. But the parrot pecks into the mango. And it said when the parrot pecks into the mango becomes sweeter. You may not want to eat it, but actually it enhances the sweetness. And another example is the mother. When the mother has a little baby sometimes, and the food, she takes a little bit to herself to see if it's too hot, too cold, make sure it's easy to digest. Mothers have this unique capacity. They can chew the food without eating it, without diminishing it in any way. If we put it in our mouth, it'll all be gone. There'll be nothing left. So the mother can chew it in such a way, then she take it out, mix with her love and saliva, and puts it in the child's mouth. Makes it's even more digestible. Similarly, the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is described like that. When it's chewed, when it's churned by the pure devotees, and then they speak it, it becomes even more delectable. So we hear from the pure devotees, from Srila Prabhupada. So we'll carry on reading here. Text 17. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So by serving the devotees, the Lord very kindly, in their association, gives us a chance to hear. And as we hear from them and continue to serve, hearing means we also follow what they say. By continuing to serve, then the Lord cleanses the heart. He removes the dirty things in our heart. Well, we think those dirty things are the best thing in the world. All those various tendencies that we have, those attachments, those desires. If only I could get this, then I'd be happy. But these are our very enemies, actually, unless we use them in Krishna's service. So the Lord cleanses of all those things, and that may sound, as we heard a few weeks ago, not so attractive if we're not ready for it. But this is step by step. This goes on as we associate with devotees of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, offenseless. Now, here's the key. Whenever, therefore, offenseless. That means without offense. Hearing of God is undertaken. It is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. That's why it's very powerful to listen to a pure devotee when he speaks, your Prabhupada. When we listen to his lectures or his kirtans, it's a very powerful effect, very purifying effect on our consciousness. There's, again, degree of hearing, but even if we don't hear attentively, there's still great benefit there. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord, and thus becomes eager to hear about it, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way the devotee may easily go back to him. Because the Lord takes us back. We can't barge our way back. It's not like you can buy a ticket to, Delhi or something. You can't do that right now either. But in usual cases, you can get a ticket to fly somewhere or train somewhere. It's not like that. This is a different type of ticket. This is a passage back to God. It is by the mercy of the Lord. As Prophet just said, you can deliver them if you so desire. And how does the Lord desire? That's the secret. When the pure devotee desires, the Lord is obligated to fulfill the pure devotee's desire. So then the Lord's desire is also to take that living entity back to God. The Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. He really wants us to go back to Godhead. But he doesn't force us. He's not going to force. The devotees, in the Bhagavad Gita, we see the devotees are more merciful than the Lord. The Lord says, don't disturb them. Their acts are inferior. But no, don't disturb them. Let them be. The devotee goes out of their way to try to connect, convince people to become Krishna conscious, just like Prabhupada did. If Prabhupada hadn't come to the West, we wouldn't be sitting here now. I don't think so. I might be a thorn bush in the garden or something. Unlikely also. But we wouldn't be here now, none of us, would we? There would be no ISKCON. There would be no temples. Practically outside of India, there would be no Krishna consciousness, actually, practically. There would be no restaurants, no prasadam, nothing. No kirtan, no books, nothing. No sangha. Because Prabhupada came to the West, we have all these facilities. It behooves us to take advantage of them. Everyone else is taking advantage in the wrong way. Taking advantage means that we actually absorb ourselves in the hearing, chanting, serving, remembering, worshipping, and so on. They're there to deliver. Prabhupada has given these various opportunities to deliver us from this illusion we're in. In the next verse, Sutta Goswami says, by regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is practically destroyed, and loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Time flies, doesn't it? We're already at, nearly 10 to 7. Where we are, who I don't know. The remedy for all problems is association of the Bhagavats. Person Bhagavat, book Bhagavat. The messages of the book Bhagavat, therefore, have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat. And the combination of these two Bhagavats will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. These verses are too sweet to stop. The next verse. At the time loving service is established in the heart, the modes of passion and ignorance and lust and desire disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes happy. Established in goodness, pure goodness. Even in material goodness, the devotee is happy, but ultimately it's pure goodness when there's no effect whatsoever of the modes of ignorance and passion. The soul's activity, as Prabhupada writes in the purport, the soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, becomes contaminated, colored. Just like water is naturally pure, but when it comes in contact with other substances, it changes its appearance or its taste, etc., etc. It may become dirty, it may become white, it may become whatever. Taste different. By association. Air is the same thing. By nature, air is pure. When air comes in contact with a stool or a very contaminated place, the air takes on that flavor. And when it comes in contact with a beautiful roses or some beautiful fragrant flowers, it takes on that flavor. And you say, oh, such a nice smell in the air, isn't it? Oh, the air smells so nice. Maybe in the morning it's very fresh. You get that spring air. Right now it's spring here. So we get this really fresh. And you know, right now one thing is, of course, with the coronavirus, it seems like nature is much more vivid, it's much more present. Everything's cleaner. The animals and the birds seem to be much more free and natural. And you can taste it, you can experience it, at least where we are. We're lucky, we're in the forest and the countryside here. So like that, the living entity by nature is pure. We're all pure by nature. Every living entity, even the most sinful person is by nature pure, the most conditioned being. Just by contacting matter and how we relate to that contact, we develop different types of consciousness. So it's by association over many lifetimes. So by association, this contamination in the heart can be cleansed, purified. So the pure nature of the soul can again manifest. The soul in its pure nature has all good qualities. It's only in the material world those qualities are perversed. They become polluted, contaminated, or even lost sometimes. The soul's activities become adulterated in contact with matter. And as such, the diseased activities are expressed in the form of, and this is the effect of contaminated consciousness by coming in contact with matter. We become lusty, we become greedy. We become very hanker after various things. We become angry sometimes. We become very much absorbed in trying to enjoy our senses, sleeping, imagination, foolishness, inactivity, laziness, all kinds of different effects are there in contact with material energy. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. A devotee is always in the mode of unalloyed goodness. Therefore, he harms no one. But the non-devotee, however educated he may be, is always harmful because we're keeping each other in the material world, which is is the Dukkala Shastra, it's the place of suffering. No matter how nice it may be, you may give somebody money, you may feed them, you may clothe them, educate them. Okay, these things go on. They have their own little place and their necessity, maybe. But in of themselves, they're not releasing anyone from the material world. Even if we go to heaven, they're still in the material world. I mean, one time I was in Auckland on the back of a bus. They had a big sign on the back of this big bus in the city. It said, even if you win the rat race, if you know what the rat race is, in the material world, everyone's, affected by the rat race. They call it rat race, this idea of trying to improve your situation, competing and so on, competition. Even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. You're still in a rat. You're still a rat. You haven't got out of being a rat. You may be a big rat, a fat rat, or whatever it may be, but you're still a rat. So even though we may be well placed in the material world, we're still in the material world. The purpose of human life is not just to remain in the material world, it's to get out of the material world. A devotee is always in a mode of unalloyed goodness. A devotee is neither foolish nor passionate. The harmful, foolish, and passionate cannot be devotees of the Lord. However, they may advertise themselves as devotees by outward dress. There has to be the change of heart, not just change of dress. Change of heart. And how? Thus established by coming to this mode of pure goodness, by associating with devotees and following their merciful guidance. Thus established in the mode of goodness, the man rejuvenated by loving service to the Lord gains liberation from material association and comes to know scientifically of the personality of Godhead. Thus the knots of the heart and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive action, karma, is terminated. One sees the self as master. That refers to both the individual jiva and the supreme. In other words, to see that we're beyond matter. Right now, basically, the soul is sold out to the material world, to the modes of nature, to his mind, etc. identifying with this body. So we don't really understand our position above and beyond. We're supposed to be controlling the intelligence and mind. Instead, we're controlled by them. We're supposed to be the master of our senses, but we're not. We're the servant of the senses. And ultimately, to understand we're the servant of Krishna, not that we're just the master of the senses. We're actually the servant of Krishna. He's the ultimate master of all masters. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. The Lord in the heart who releases us, delivers us from this bondage. This knot is called ahankara. Ahankara means, of course, we may know, means false ego. And it falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. He sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. And that's all I'm going to read from that Bhagavatam. We're already nearly 6 o'clock here, huh? And I'm going to now go on to the questions, because we'll carry on. We've got lots more nectar on this subject. And specifically, we're going to go into the next session. We're going to go into the subject matter of envy at its root stage, as well as its present manifestation, and what to do about it. Because basically speaking, as this verse we've read today is predominantly, and the previous verse also, one of the predominant features of it is envy, and how envy is present within every living entity in the material universe, and how in the spiritual world there is no envy. And a devotee, as we heard last time, Nimatsavanam Satam, a devotee is supposed to be free of envy. Unless that's Satam means pure goodness. So Nimatsavam, he's on the platform of pure goodness. And as long as we're contaminating this material world, as long as we're still attached in this material world, misidentifying ourselves is bound to be. That is both the effect of envy, and it will cause more envy too. This false identification with the body. But we'll deal with that next time. That will be on Wednesday, Krishna willing, at the same time. So now we're going to go on if there's any questions. Okay, here's the first one. Maharaj will start in 5 minutes. Sam will come on soon. Okay, I'm going to start in 5 minutes, it says here. What's that?
That was what we put before the meeting started.
Oh, I see. There was a question. I saw one question. There it is.
It's a private question.
Okay. I don't know. A private question. I don't know if we can answer on that. I have to read what it is. I think it's all right to read it online. I won't mention who it's from. My papa practice, that doesn't mean my dad's practice, that means my sinful practice. I can stop my thinking only if I chant loudly, otherwise many thoughts are coming up. And certain times I cannot focus at all. Is it possible to search out systematically what is wrong? Or it is natural for a time being and I should not search, but accept that is my level. Who else can help me? Okay, so we need help. That's a fact. Both are there. I mean, we may be familiar with that, but it's a fact. There's many statements which say the loud chanting of the holy name is the methodology to control the mind. The most. I mean, many people maybe chant quietly and control their mind. It's another thing. But particularly it's emphasized that loud chanting is the means. If the mind is wandering, which it often is, sometimes that's not so easy because of circumstances, but practically speaking, that's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has emphasized Yugadharnam Sankirtan. When we're chanting japa, it may not always be feasible to chant very, very loudly, especially if you're chanting at 4 o'clock in the morning and the next door neighbor is only a couple of inches away behind some thin wall. You might have some problems there. Even if he's not, you're sitting in the temple, there's 20 other devotees there and you're chanting at the top of your voice. And everyone else was, time to shut up. You can't hear, nobody can hear anything. They can only hear one devotee. Or everyone starts chanting at the top of their voice and you can't hear anything except a roar. So we're supposed to hear the sound, but the Sankirtan, the Yugadharma Sankirtan, the congregational chanting is the methodology given by Lord Chaitanya. How we deal with this. This is the means. And the second part of it is, if I can reach it, is it natural? Well, it's not natural in the real sense of the term, but it's natural when we're in the conditional world there. Our mind is going to wander, and the means to deal with that is loud chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Yes. Should I search? Was it natural timing, or should I not search? Basically it means should I search out why? I think that's previously. Search out why is it so distracted, and why is it only that when I chant loudly that this mind is controlled only when I chant loudly, and when I don't chant loudly it wanders all over the place. Well, there's different ways of looking why, and we know why in one sense. We've already discussed that. Many lifetimes of being conditioned in this material world and becoming attached and still being attached to those various objects. And you can search and search and search. I suppose you could continually search. There may be something very specific. Now, there may be offenses involved. It may not just be attachments. There may be offenses involved. There may be something wrong in our practice. There may be something, amiss there. We may be hiding something. We may not be revealing our hearts. We may be hiding something within. It's one thing to have. It's like we see in the Nectar of Instruction of Atravegam Manasakrodavegam. There, Rupa Goswami describes, these 6 pushing senses. One who can tolerate them, one who's sober, and make disciples all over the world. Now, Prabhupada writes there, it doesn't mean that you don't have those pushing tendencies. It means that we're actually engaging those. So the art is to find how to engage. If we can ascertain what our attachments are, how to engage those attachments. We could look at it another way, our propensities, or another form, or another effect of our conditional world, material tendencies. How to engage those tendencies in a way which actually is beneficial for our Krishna consciousness, engaging them in Krishna service. Then if it's offenses, then, we beg, and this part of the question also, request, please correct me. How will I be corrected? Even Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, just reading just now, how he passed, when his Guru Maharaj passed away, he was really lamenting. Who will correct me now? Who will chastise me now? He was literally crying. There is no one now to chastise me. How will I be able to carry on? It's a fact. We need that. And that is a big secret, because a lot of the times we don't want it. We don't want to be corrected. We don't want to change. Prabhupada says, those who don't want to change, then menial service must be performed, but it might take a long time. But the best thing is if we're actually open. Please correct me. Please chastise me. Please direct me. This is the business of disciple. This is the relationship, actually, between guru and disciple. It's supposed to be the relationship between parent and child as well. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But that's what it's supposed to be. Why? For the child's benefit, for the devotee's benefit, the disciple's benefit. Chastisement is for their benefit. It's not just to, put them down, to make them unhappy or something, make me feel more happy. No. It's to actually help release the living entity from that condition in this world. Bhagavatam was spoken by Narada Muni, chastising Srila Vyasadeva. Arjuna, Krishna chastised Arjuna. You damn fool. First thing he said, Ashokjanan Vashokjastvam, Pragyavadam Chabasase, Katasam Agatasam Cha Nanushanchanti Pandita. Krishna said to Arjuna, you are speaking, learning words, but you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. It's just not probably a very appropriate verse in the sense in our present situation. People won't understand. But from a devotee's point of view, yes, Krishna said, you're a fool, Arjuna. You're a fool. You think you're not. So he chastised him right from word go. He chastised him a few times. Why aren't you learning this? Even if Sukadeva Goswami chastises Parikshit Maharaj for our benefit. How many times do I have to tell you? Sometimes you would say that. Prabhupada would chastise only when the time's right. If a person wasn't ready, may not. Or if it wasn't your position to chastise, you may not also. It has to be, according to position. But that's the condition. We do need that help. We need correction. We've got to be willing to, there's got to be an element there, at least of understanding that change is required. And we've got to be a little open to receive the necessary direction for change to be evoked. And even if the person who's speaking is not necessarily eligible, but if we're sincere in our heart, and we really do want a change of heart, we do really feel repentant, and we do really feel lamenting that we've got these material attachments, Krishna will help. And it can come through many different ways. It's not necessarily directly through a devotee even. Sometimes the material energy does, quite often. Or even a conditioned soul sometimes reminds us, corrects us. They don't know it, but Krishna works through them. Everything situation is Krishna's pointing things out to us to help us to progress in our spiritual lives, to help us to realize what are the obstacles on our path. So simultaneously, with loud chanting of the holy name and being open to correction and being, and understanding we do need change. We're not just, we don't want to keep things as they are, so to speak. We want a change of heart. So the two go side by side. We do need that association of those to correct us. Who's next?
Maharaj, we have 5 more questions.
Okay. Can we make this bigger? I can barely read it. I don't mean just the writing, but the area which it occupies. Like 2 lines at once coming up. Okay, here we go. Lochan Dastak. No, I should have said the name, should I? Let's go in order, please.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Maharaj, it's from here.
The names of the sages not mentioned who stayed at Narada Muni's place. Why is that? Why they're not mentioned, I cannot say. However, I've heard one senior Vaishnava say who they are. I don't know where it's from. Maybe in the Puranas, Harivamsa Purana or one of the Puranas, maybe it's written there, but I've never heard it quoted in a Shastra, but I've heard that they were the Folkamaras, but I don't know if that's true or not. One devotee did say that in a lecture. Whoever they were great sages, that's for sure. So you can make some more inquiries on it, but that may not be. I don't have more to say on that. What's this? How can we motivate ourselves to study Srila Prabhupada's books regularly? When we hear Srimad Bhagavatam from senior devotees, everything is clear. When we try to read alone, it becomes difficult to understand. Well, you're lucky. At least you're trying to understand it. For most of us, we fall asleep. Right? As soon as we open the Bhagavatam. Even Prabhupada said that. He said, my Srimad Bhagavatam class is for my advanced disciples. It's a good cure for insomnia. If you've got insomnia, you pick up Srimad Bhagavatam, and generally your insomnia is we should advertise this. Maybe we could sell Srimad Bhagavatam to people who suffer from insomnia. What do you think? Good idea. Good time. Try it now. Put it online. Having insomnia due to the lockdown, we have the perfect cure. Srimad Bhagavatam. Buy your Srimad. There's just one book. You have to sell the whole set even. Buy your books here. And what to do? We have no taste. Huh? Well, we've been hearing about how taste comes just now. Association. Well, that's exactly what you're saying here. It's the same thing, basically. When we associate with devotees, and we've all experienced that. I mean, just 2 days ago, an old friend of mine, I hope to think he's an old friend of mine. I know he's a very, you could say, controversial personality in a sense, but he was our GBC at one time. He was an amazing kirtan leader. His name was Hansaduda. He left the world about 2 days ago, Hansaduda. He was a Swami and Prabhu living in California. And he was such a kirtan. And you just be around him and you can't help but get into the kirtan. He was so ecstatic. And when somebody's really into the Srimad Bhagavatam, I remember Mahavishnu Goswami, Indian body, Gujarati. Some of you may have met him. And when you were around him, you couldn't help but enter into Srimad Bhagavatam Katha. He was just never stopped talking Srimad Bhagavatam. He was so wonderfully absorbed in Bhagavatam. And I'll tell you how he became absorbed. This is an interesting story. But in 1982 or 3, he was banned from the temple. for various reasons. He was an elderly Indian man at that time, simple man, but he didn't want to surrender to certain authority. So he was banned from the temple, basically. So, okay. He just took Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, and day and night he read the Bhagavatam for years. And then when things changed, he was coming back again. And nobody knew. They asked him one day to give class. Nobody could believe it. The speaker didn't turn up. There was no one there. He said, "Oh, Vishnu Prabhu, can you give class?" Everyone was stunned listening to his Bhagavata class. So in his association, everyone became enthused to hear Bhagavatam. So what you can do in this regard is maybe you can join a reading group. There are reading groups online now. There's devotees in Mayapur who are doing regular reading groups, discussion groups. Join a group. Devotees we're in the same boat. We're all trying to help each other to develop attraction for hearing and chanting. On our own, it's a fact. It's very hard to read. The sages weren't alone. There were 88,000 of them sat there listening to Sukadeva Swami. Then one or two of them sat there, oh God, there's only two of us left. How am I going to get out of here? Sometimes it's like in the class, isn't it? You're wondering, when's the best time to leave? If I leave now, it might not be a good example, but if I don't leave now, there might not be many left and the speaker might get upset. Our attraction for Bhagavatam is not so deep sometimes. Questions and answers, make notes, apply it in our lives. Try to see how this works, what it means to me, what this message is. On Wednesday, if we get round to it, I was going to read tonight, it's a fabulous pastime, talking about, selflessness, non-envy and so on. And I'm really looking forward to that one. That will be next time round. But, do these things, simple little things there. Try. The Bhagavatam is not just something we read, Bas. It's something we're meant to apply in our lives as much as we can as well. And like that. Maybe we could go on and on. There's a few things.
Maharaj, we can extend the class if you want.
Yeah, we have no time limits. We're free. Is that the last one?
Yes.
Krishna said to Arjuna that he was sharing the knowledge of bhakti and he was free from envy. How is it that Krishna allows us to hear Gita? Speaking personally, I certainly am not free of envy. Nice one. Well, yeah, we do see that. This Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be, the Bhagavad Gita rather, it cannot be explained to those who are envious, who are not devotees, those who are not engaged in devotional service. Because you are my dear devotee, you are my friend, I'm speaking this to you, etc. These things are there in the Bhagavad Gita. So how is it even there's also there, Yesham Tunta Katam Papam Janana Punya Karmanam. Krishna says that only those who are freed of all sinful reactions, have acted piously in this life as well as in previous lives, can engage in devotional service with determination. How is it possible? Well, one devotee asked Prabhupada one time, how is this possible, Srila Prabhupada? I have no piety, I have no qualification. Prabhupada said, I've given you that piety. I've given you that eligibility. I've made you eligible. This is the mercy of the pure devotee. He gives eligibility even though we don't have it. He gives it. All we have to do is submit ourselves to him or to the pure devotee, whoever they are, to take guidance and direction. We may have no qualification to understand, to hear, etc. We may not be attentive, and so on. But the pure devotee gives a chance. And depending on what level we're on, they'll give us a chance accordingly. It may just be menial service. It may be, other types of service. Sometimes they're engaged in service. Somehow or another, they're engaged in some kind of service, kirtan, whatever. Some kind of service they'll engage us. We have no other way. Even arti, we're basically speaking being engaged by the pure devotees to offer arti to the deity. It's that regulated principles, no doubt. But this is what purifies. This is not spontaneous from our hearts. It may be spontaneous in certain ways when we like what we're doing. But the general principle is not spontaneous, to submit, to surrender, to give up our independence, to get up in the morning, to chant 16 rounds, to read the Bhagavatam, to go on the street chanting the holy name or distant books or whatever we do, etc. It may not be spontaneous by any means, but this is the mercy of the pure devotee. He's giving us this chance to engage in devotional service. And by giving us this chance to engage in devotional service, because we're serving a pure devotee who is free of all vice. Krishna is very pleased. And so therefore Krishna cleanses our heart and awakens within our heart this mood or attraction to hear the holy name, to hear his messages. The service to the pure devotee, the more and more that service becomes selfless and unmotivated and surrendered and submissive, the more the Lord reciprocates. Like that. Another one here. No, there's not a question. It's just Dandavat Pranams also Prabhu's and to everyone. This is from Navanita Chora Prabhu from South London. Glories to all of your devotional service. So, if there are any more questions, please feel free to put them up.
I have one question, Maharaj.
There's one question on the floor.
Maharaj, for sometimes even when we are in Krishna consciousness.
Can they hear this?
Yes, I think so.
Speak loud.
In Krishna consciousness, sometimes when we are enjoying the Krishna consciousness, the prasadam, the kirtan, the association with devotees, when there is pain from the same, when we are doing the same activities, it's much harder to bear when we're in the material world and we experience pain and pleasure, the alternate. But in Krishna consciousness, when you feel pain, it's a pain and it's 100 times more painful.
Pain in the neck.
Yes.
Especially when the prasadam is like, you're going for prasadam, right? Such pain, isn't it? The sweet rice. Oh, no more, that's too much. But you go there's the sweet rice and it's burned.
Oh my God.
Oh. You've been saving for the sweet rice and it's completely burned, or they put salt in the sweet rice. Oh my God. Oh, what a disaster. Or, 2 bags of chili powder in the garanga potatoes or whatever it is. Oh, it's like, that's an extreme example. You did mention prasadam. And with devotees you're working with, some or another, it's painful. Yeah, well, this is, even in the family, you'll notice this. I mean, even Ravana, I don't know if you read the Ramayana, but in the Ramayana, you'll see Ravana also, I can't remember the poem, but it is poetically placed. I don't think he spoke it poetically, but it's written in a poetic way. That, that sticks and stones may break my bones or something, and in other words, he's referring to enemies, people of other kind. We don't mind if they upset me, but when my own family members turn on me, that's the most painful. That's the most painful, he was saying. Because he's referring to Vibhishan, turn on for his own benefit, but he didn't see it like that. So yes, it is. And the association of devotees, when our own devotee friends who we're depending on, something lets us down or we misunderstand or whatever it may be, it's very painful. Or if something goes wrong, it can be very disturbing. Well, again, we're not only fair weather devotees, if you know what that means. It's not just when the sun shines, I'm out there, we have to understand this is, although it's not that we should behave like this, but when these things do happen, it's a chance to turn to Krishna. We have to practice. Our life is for practice. Our life is for trying to remember Krishna in all situations. And when there's great pain, great suffering, this is should be the most intense, most great. Look at the Bhagavatam, look at the pastimes of Krishna, of Ramchandra, of Lord Chaitanya also. How they plunge their devotees into their family members, their devotees into great distress sometimes. Unbearable distress. But it increased. It's not that they then went running off looking for another girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or something rather. They just became more absorbed in Krishna, more absorbed. This is the nature of devotee, because we're being prepared. We're being prepared to be absorbed fully and not being dependent on any external circumstance of any kind. As long as we're still seeing things, you could say in a materially dependent way, we'll be experiencing these dualities, even in the association of devotees. We'll be experiencing happiness and distress. We'll be experiencing friends and enemies. But when one progresses, there are no friends and enemies as such as we know it materially. Everyone's our friend. There are no happiness and distress as we know it. As a devotee is fixed in Krishna consciousness. You can read this in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very beautiful section dealing with the devotee Those who are dear to me, Krishna describes those who are dear to me. So it's relieving. It releases the devotee. Now, Prabhupada says when a devotee suffers, I'll say the one first. When a devotee feels happiness in his devotional service, he's getting freed from his good karma. Sounds funny, doesn't it? Freed from my good karma? That doesn't sound very nice. What's going to be next? Your bad karma. Oh God, no. That means I'll only have bad karma left. You can see this with, Riga, King Riga, face for this too. And when a devotee suffers in devotional service, Prabhupada said, a devotee is becoming freed from their bad karma. Token or not token, but we have karmas. So one's actually getting freed. Thank you, Krishna, for releasing me. Try to remember that. Thank you, Krishna, for releasing me of this bondage which I have in this world. This attachment to wanting to enjoy this world. This attachment to wanting to be in the center, to be respected, to have things my way, etc., etc. On you can go. Thank you for helping kindly to release me from this. Instead, we hit back. If you speak to me like that again, I'm going to punch you in the nose. I'm never going to come here again. I'm going to tell Temple Commander about you. You're in trouble now. We tend to sometimes react, even if we don't say it in our heart of hearts, we're depressed or something. No, we should turn to Krishna and remember. As we'll see in the prayers, we didn't finish them. We'll finish them on Wednesday. The prayers are proper. You may do as you wish with me. You may make me a failure or a success as you like. You can do as you want. Vishwanath Chakravarti Prabhupada says the incentive for spreading Krishna consciousness is based upon the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the second chapter, Bhagavad Gita, verse 41 or something like that. That verse. And there he says, the instruction of my spiritual master is all that matters to me. It is both my sadhana and my sadhya. Whether I'm in heaven or hell, suffering or happy, it does not matter. My only desire in life, my only goal in life is to serve the instruction of my spiritual master. And that's the mood of the pure devotee. Now, we follow the pure devotee's mood as much as we can. At least try to remember that. But this is not a matter of duality here. Krishna's hand is at work. Sridhar Swami, the great commentator on the Bhagavatam, explains that when a devotee is happy or distressed in his devotional service, whatever the cause may be, that this is actually the hand of the Lord working. It's not karma exactly. It may appear to be karma. In one sense, we say it's karma because, we do have our minds and our bodies from our previous life that's going on. But there's another factor above and beyond that, and that is the hand of the Lord. With a devotee, the Lord is arranging situations to strengthen and to give us a chance to advance in Krishna consciousness by either inspiring us to go forward or releasing us from that which is keeping us bound up in this material world. In other words, desires to see ourselves in the center, egotistical desires. So Sridhar Swami says, the Lord arranges these situations in such a way to remove the mentality which causes us to experience duality in this world, or happiness and distress, whatever the duality may be. Experience or become bound up in this material, attached to different situations, and then unhappy when the situation changes. This is the word duality, which everyone in the world faces, and as aspiring devotees, we also experience it. But the Lord allows certain situations to give us a chance to become freed of that. So we're undisturbed in any situation. That doesn't mean we're callous, and when things are going wrong, that doesn't mean, who cares? It's all the same. We're not Mayavadis, but we're not disturbed in a sense by it on our own account. We may be, in a sense, for the service of Krishna, makes him or the other person's account. But on our own account, a pure devotee is not disturbed. He just carries on, adjusting, doing the needful, etc., without being disturbed, sober. He's not disturbed, sober. Anyway, just a few things. Hare Krishna. Any more? One last one, I think. Oh, yeah, Amma. Lord Balaram kills two demons, Dhenuka and Palamba. Lord Balaram stands for spiritual master. These two demons represent Tama and Rajaguna. And what it means, and that's a question, it's not a statement. Can the devotees see the question or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Can they see it on their screens?
Yes.
And what it means.
If you open the chat.
Oh, if you open the chat, you'll see it. And what it means for disciple. Own endeavor to follow spiritual master instruction, and by sincere following, getting free of these two lowest modes, rajas and tamas. Well, you may be instructing me here because although it's explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur what these two demons represent in terms of anartha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives some description of all the various demons who were killed in Krishna Lila, one by one, and what type, some represent greed, envy, lust, hatred, and so on and so forth. And they're killed by Krishna, by remembering Krishna, by chanting Krishna's names, etc., serving Krishna. They can be killed like that. But these two, Palamba and Dhenuka, they're killed by Balaram, who's a spiritual master. So you've written here Tama and Raja, and you may well be right, but I cannot honestly remember. I'd have to look that up a long time. I haven't looked at those statements. But they are there. That, yes, it's not enough just to remember Krishna. We have to have a spiritual master. We have to be serve the spiritual master, and certain anarthas are removed in that act. Krishna does not bestow his mercy, at least not fully, unless one goes through that process of having those anarthas removed by serving the pure devotees of the Lord. So, but I do say I'm not hiding the fact. I'm not a pure devotee of the Lord. I'm trying to do a little service for one. So I don't have a full understanding or full knowledge of all these details, but just the general principle is there that you can't jump over the spiritual masters. It's not possible. The disciplic succession, we have to follow the disciplic succession as it is, the current connection to that disciplic succession through the disciplic succession, the current connection. You could say Siksha is Srila Prabhupada, and Diksha may be others. Siksha may also come from others too, but it's ultimately Srila Prabhupada and our Parampara Siksha. So by abiding or surrendering to that Siksha, then one becomes eligible to receive the mercy of Krishna. And Dhenuka is an ass-like demon who's very attached to possessiveness and seeing himself in the center, and jealousy and greed and so on and so forth. And Palambasura is also, strange enough, he represents lust and various things like that. So whatever it may be, it seems like, you could say ignorance and passion. Lust is passion and Dhenuka is like ignorance. So it could be related like that, yes. Next one. So by following the spiritual master sincerely, yes, then gradually these demons can be killed. A devotee once told me that Bhakti-tirtha Swami, I guess it means said, we only get freed from our bad karma if we understand the reason why we suffer. Is that true? Interesting. Let's think about that. We only get freed of our bad karma if we understand the reason why we suffer. Well, in general, you can give a general picture. I mean, you can spend your whole lifetime analyzing each and everything. I'm suffering now. I remember now, like Mundaka Muni or something. He forgot that he split an ant in two with a piece of grass when he was a little tiny kid. And then later on, he was put on, they call it changi or something. He was about to be pierced with a lance. He said, "What's going on here? My whole life I've been a Muni. What are you doing?" And he was, and then they let him on. They realized who he was, and they let him go. But then he was, "This is crazy." And he went off to Yamaraj, and he said, "What are you doing? You made a mistake here. You got it wrong." And he said, "What have you done?" And Yamaraj said, "No, when you were a child, you split an ant in two, so you had to go through this ordeal." He said, "What? I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just a kid." "Still, you have to go through it." And of course, he got angry with Yamaraj and said, "I curse you to become Sudra." So he became Vidura. So he didn't know why, and that's like a reversal of the situation. He didn't take it very well. But yeah, so it's not that we have to analyze every single situation. We'll be here forever, analyzing our every move in life. You'll be completely mental about every little detail, and you won't be able to get anywhere. Some people live like that. They're, what do they call it? Psychology. They're completely paranoid about everything they say to anyone, what happened, this, that, the other. They can't kind of act normally. So, but the generalization of that is true. That can you just go to the side? I think they may be blocking the screen. Can you drag it over? I can't see Prabhupada. There we go. That's better. Thank you. The general understanding is, yes, why we suffer. The reason why we suffer is because we've forgotten Krishna. So how are we going to get freed of karma if we don't remember Krishna? So it's kind of an easy one if you want to take a generalization to that. Our suffering is due to what? We've forgotten Krishna, and then we're identifying ourselves with this material body. And as long as we identify ourselves with this body, we're a Brahma, even up to Brahma Loka, there's suffering. It's not just like, down here. Everywhere there's suffering. And as long as we're forgetting Krishna, we're in the world of Dukkhale Shashvatam. There will be suffering. So the reason we're suffering is we've forgotten Krishna. So if we don't remember that, we'll continue to suffer. So in that sense, it certainly is true. And when we remember Krishna, you get freed of all your karma, good and bad. It's not that we're just trying to get freed of bad karma. We're trying to get freed of good karma too. We don't like to think like that, but that's in a sense in the material. We can use freed of it means we can use it in Krishna service. Doesn't mean, we should therefore become stones. We're not stones, we're persons. So this simple thing. Now we can go back in our past lifetimes. Sometimes people go through astrology to look at that. Well, because you did this, you're getting this, this, and this. That may be there. But Prabhupada, many times he said, not necessarily. You don't necessarily have to do that. It may be helpful, but you don't necessarily have to do it. You say, why do we fall in this material world? That's the original sin. Described in the Bhagavatam, the original sin is we turn away from Krishna. So why? Prabhupada said, we don't waste our time only looking why. We may realize that in time. He said, because we misused our independence. We did something in our past lifetime which caused us to be where we are now. Let's do the thing now. Let's take the medicine. Whether you know how you got sick or you didn't know how to get sick, if you take the right medicine, you'll become cured. That's the point, isn't it? I think so. I mean, now we have coronavirus and many people are sick. So whether you know how you got it, who you got it from, you can spend all your time finding out who you got it from before you take the medicine. Does it depend on that? It may be important for the sake of others. Okay, we accept that. But individually, it's not. The main thing is to get cured. Maybe they don't have the vaccine yet. But you have to take the cure. Get healthy, get well. That's the main thing. Whether we know exactly how it came about or we don't know. Because we can spend all our life trying to work that one out and then still not take the medicine. We may be a little bit consoled knowing why we are in this position. But we have to take the medicine. That's the main thing. Anything else? Hey, how do you go? Australia, Navanicha Chor. I thought I have another Navanicha Chor, a friend, very close friend in London. Navanita.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
They both from Sydney. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Both. Apologies, I thought you were I couldn't see the pictures. I thought it was a Navanita in London. Because London's the same time. I mean, it's Australia, it's the middle of the night. It's crazy time, 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, middle of the night, Maharaj. Yes.
Thanks for being there. We're going to have a program for the New Zealand, Philippines, Malaysia, Australia, India, whatever, that part of the world this week at a time which is more suitable for all of you. At least in terms of, the time of day. Maybe you'll think it's interfere with it, but at least that will be there. Sometime this week we'll start. And another one?
That's the last question.
Let me just buzz over. Now that was the question. Okay, well that looks like it. That's wonderful. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Jai. So please keep it in your mind. We want the well-wished, all living entities, all people, no matter what they are, no matter what condition they're in. Everyone is suffering various ways. More so maybe they're aware of it right now than usual. But we pray for everyone's welfare. And ultimately, as Prahlad Maharaj is praying, they become non-envious and they take up devotional service and think only of the welfare of others. Because when one's non-envious, one doesn't see anyone else as, we're not jealous of anyone else, one sees everyone else as Krishna's servant, Krishna's part and parcel. And one devotee feels very sorry that people are suffering in this world when they don't need to, because they've forgotten Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, goodbye. Hare Krishna. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Bo. It's nice to see the faces of somebody.